Hey everyone, my name is Dennis, and behind me is my Volkswagen ID.4 Prime, the all-wheel drive version, almost fully loaded. I've had it for 2 years now, and it has covered 52,000 kilometers. Today, I'll tell you what has happened during that time, what I've done with the car, how it drove me crazy, and what condition it's in now. I also plan to give it a detailing and check the condition of the paint, plastics, and interior materials. Then, we'll head to the service center. The last time I visited one was a year ago, when we did regular maintenance on a Volkswagen. Feel free to check that out via the link. My friend Ivan was with me then. The main question today is, how much has the battery degraded? I've done a lot of fast charging. At one point, I recorded a video called The Downsides of the Volkswagen ID.4. You can find the detailed version via the link. When I first got the car, it came with the very first software version, either 1498 or 1496, that doesn't really matter. Everything was buggy, from the parking sensors to the driver assistance systems. Even the music system glitched, and everything related to the software was affected. It really drove me nuts. Thankfully, the issues were resolved after an update. As you may already know, or if not, check the link, all issues disappeared after the software update, and now I have a pretty stable electric vehicle. Just yesterday, however, as I was getting ready to shoot this video, the driver assistance systems failed again. It was a dry summer day, no rain, everything seemed fine. But the systems suddenly stopped working while I was driving. Since I upgraded to an interim version based on the Chinese TPI last year, and recently installed the latest updates, which you can also find linked, this was the first time I encountered such a glitch. Like many Volkswagen ID.4 owners, I've had issues with the door handles after rain. They get wet and the keyless sensor stops working. Thankfully, the guys at Electro Garage fixed it by replacing the glue inside the handle, and I haven't had that problem for 2 months now. Kudos to them. Another annoying issue I face is the rear row ambient lighting turning on by itself. Right now it's lit because the doors are open, but here's a screenshot showing how only one of the 2 lights randomly turns on, and I can't do anything about it. It eventually turns off by itself. I've seen videos online of people cleaning the contacts, which seems to help, but I've had this done twice, and the problem still persists. My wheel rims are pretty scratched up because I have the 21-inch wheels on my Prime, which makes parking a little tricky. Another issue I encountered early on was the malfunctioning of the pilot feedback on the right side. For those unfamiliar, the ID.4 uses touch-sensitive buttons, and they vibrate to confirm input. Mine only vibrated once or twice out of 10 attempts. I was hoping it was a software issue, but even after several firmware updates, nothing has changed. The left side pilot works fine, but the right one is unreliable. Charging this electric car was another challenge. After driving over 50,000 kilometers and testing many electric vehicles with the CCS standard, I have to say that the GBT connector isn't great. The cable is too thick, making it inconvenient, and the connector itself is prone to glitches. Fortunately, the GBT charging stations are improving, and the system is becoming more stable. As for upgrades, I've replaced the telematics unit and the Euro head. What did that give me? I now have native navigation. On a scale of 1 to 5, I'd give it a 3, maybe even a 2.5. Honestly, in my opinion, nothing beats Waze. A new feature has appeared. On the Boryspil Highway, the car shows 3 lanes, but it's just a pretty picture adding nothing meaningful. However, when I use the native navigation with the HUD display, the visuals are very impressive, and augmented reality really enhances the emotional experience. In charging mode, I can now see how many kilowatts, not just kilometers, are going into the battery. And of course, having the native language is something I really enjoy. Still, I was pursuing slightly different goals. I hope we'll manage to refine things so that when using native navigation and setting a route to a charging station, the car will preheat the battery in winter. Unfortunately, that doesn't work yet. Likewise, adaptive recuperation, like in the European version, doesn't work. Basically, I got traffic sign recognition, but it works at an average level because the map doesn't always display them correctly. I also got the charging schedule feature. For example, I can set it to charge the car to 100% by a certain time. A feature I occasionally use. What else? The internet hasn't appeared, nor have the services, making the European head unit replacement is a rather expensive and not very useful option. Android Auto owners will also be disappointed. That feature didn't come with the replacement. So that's all I wanted to mention for the introduction. Let's get on with the plan. Detailing, visiting the service station, and taking useful battery capacity readings. The car now looks almost as good as when it was new. Let's get the first comments from the representatives of the detailing studio.
Hello, my name is Serhi. Today, we have an ID4 for inspection brought by Dennis. What can we say after the first inspection post-wash? The car doesn't have any major scratches or problems, but it's clear that after 50,000 kilometers, 40,000 of which, as Dennis mentioned, were on the highway, there's a lot of tar buildup. It's important to remove it periodically because it can penetrate deep into the paint and lacquer, leading to future problems. Here's how we deal with it. We'll work on it a little bit now and show you the results. After washing the car, we can confirm that there's no corrosion. However, there are the usual signs of wear, typical for all vehicles. These include stone chips on the front part of the body, a result of the lack of protective film in certain areas. As we can see, there's some film applied here, but only in small sections. Unfortunately, we always recommend that customers apply film to the entire front bumper and hood, as these are the most vulnerable parts of any car. You can also spot small scuffs on the shiny parts, which we'll try to fix now.
With the exterior done, and there are no more questions about the body, let's move on to the interior. I suspect there will be more issues there, but let's see.
After cleaning the interior, we can see that there are areas with scratches in the entrance area and in the luggage compartment. There's not much we can do about these scratches now, but there is a solution that can help prevent this from happening in the future. Applying anti-gravel film immediately can help. This film is applied to all these areas, both front and rear, in the trunk loading zone, and on the door sills. This will help prevent such problems. I'd also like to point out that there's a lot of royal black plastic, which is also prone to wear. We can see some cobwebs. These parts can also be covered with special film to prevent such issues. It's really nice, by the way, that the protective film on the screen is still in place. So I can suggest applying protective films on the armrests and the screen to protect them from scratches.
Personally, I'm surprised that the leather is in good condition and the Alcantara hasn't worn out either. I was quite amazed.
Friends, let's summarize our work. Completed. Screens protected. Bitumen removed. Take a look at the interior details, now also covered with protective film. Overall, the car is in excellent condition, with no rust whatsoever, contrary to rumors that it falls apart after 40 to 50,000 kilometers. Absolutely not. The car is in fantastic shape. So, we'll see you again when it hits 100,000 kilometers.
We are back at the seat dealership. This is where I service all my electric vehicles and cars. Hopefully, they'll find something this time, as it seems our car is almost too perfect. As you can see, they've lifted the car and started diagnostics.
Here we are with first electric ride, and it's time for Dennis to service his car. Well, Dennis seems to have better luck than most. There's not a lot on his list, but still, the front left brake caliper is making some noise, though nothing critical. Another thing that came up at this mileage, the control arm bushings are starting to delaminate, which is normal for such a heavy car. Surprisingly, perhaps because Dennis drives carefully, the stabilizer links are still intact. Overall, the vehicle is well maintained. The suspension on the Prime version, unlike the Pro, has held up, with no issues on the half shafts. This confirms that the all-wheel drive version is subject to slightly less stress.
And now, for the final topic, battery degradation. To make this both interesting and informative, we will not rely on just one method to test the degradation. We'll use several. That's why I've come to a new charging station that operates via the Go-to-You system. I arrived with about 30% charge. Another ID.4 with over 50,000 kilometers on the odometer will join me shortly, but it has rarely used fast charging stations. We'll charge both cars from the same station and compare the results. This will be an interesting test to see how much energy 1% of battery capacity holds. Next, we will conduct an experiment to measure the battery capacity using this diagnostic equipment. OBD11, I'll be assisted by Ilya from Volkswagen ID4 Ukraine, the admin of a well-known chat. To be honest, we've already done it. I'll grab my phone and tell you about all the stages of testing. As you can see, the second car has finally arrived. And here's the interesting part. An example of dynamic distribution. Since I already had 55% charge and this car arrived with 33%, the charging station calculated and provided 90 kilowatts to the car with the lower charge level, leaving me with only 40. So, it wasn't an even split. From the perspective of the charging station's investor, this is good. But for me, being the first one to arrive, it's not ideal. Yet it is what it is. Please share your thoughts about dynamic distribution in the comments. Meanwhile, we'll continue telling you what has happened to my battery over 50,000 kilometers. I got 40 kilowatts on CCS and 57% and 92 kilowatts on GBT with 37%. I charged the electric vehicle to exactly 80%, drove about 500 meters, and we're now not far from my house with Ilya, where he connected his equipment. You can now see a screenshot showing the battery capacity at 7,300 watt-hours. What does this tell us? It speaks to some uncertainty, as many claim that the battery capacity is 84.8 kilowatt-hours. I've often said the gross capacity is 82 kilowatt-hours, but I trust Ilya. He says that for vehicles made before the first half of 2022, the maximum available capacity he saw on new cars was around 77 to 78 kilowatt-hours. Starting from the second half of 2022, it increased to 80. Friends, make your own conclusions. I'm only providing the data we observe. So at 80% charge, it reads 73.8. 2 days later, I charged the car to 100%, drove the same 500 to 700 meters, lost about 1%, and surprisingly, the reading didn't change. Here's the screenshot on your screen. In my opinion, 73.8 is not a bad result. We also dug through the diagnostic history that Ilya conducted and have some more data to share with you from other mileage points. Here's the sequence. A car with 24,073.9 kilometers, another with 24,074 kilometers, a 2023 model with 3,180 kilometers, a record holder with 80,300 kilometers, and one with 380 kilometers, 20,000 kilometers, showing 75,800. So, in my view, my car has successfully passed the degradation test at significant mileage. Please share your thoughts in the comments. We'll now wrap up the charging session, and you can see comparison data on the screen between home charging and multiple public charging sessions with the ID.4. I haven't analyzed these numbers yet, so I won't draw any conclusions. Let me know in the comments what you think about this difference. Next, I also want to clarify that I don't consider these data perfect. Even the 80,300 value, does it represent the capacity with buffers or the available one? Nobody can explain that to us. Different diagnostic tools show different results. 2 months ago, when I replaced the head unit with a European one, the guys from Electro Garage showed me 74.4 using other diagnostic equipment, so these numbers can vary. I believe in modern thermal management, so I'm not too worried about degradation. That's the situation. Here's what I'd like to say in conclusion. Regarding my car, I'm grateful to own it. Yes, I lost a lot of money since I bought it at the peak price, and the big issue with electric vehicles is that they currently depreciate faster than internal combustion engine cars. Losing 3 or 4 kilowatt hours doesn't seem like a major loss to me. As for the chassis, it's a VAG, and at 50,000 kilometers, some issues are starting to appear, but I was told it's still good to go. In terms of corrosion and paint, the car is galvanized, so we found no problems with the body. I also want to emphasize that you shouldn't compare this car to every Chinese electric vehicle. Each car should be considered individually. I look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Thanks to all of you for being here and for your support. Also, thanks to my car. It helped me launch this channel, create an adapter for fast charging, and become an auto journalist. Thanks to everyone. Bye.